Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and I can say that indeed strange things do happen. I don't know if you saw the other video that I posted on our other channel, whereby a woman who is in Chipinge, she sent me a video and she was saying that this thing, it is happening in our village, whereby the local village headman is a ritualist and he has been using all of the women that are in his village, that are under his leadership, and there were bags upon bags that were found in his house, and these bags, they were full of dirty used underwear that once belonged to all of these ladies. Indeed, strange things do happen in this world. The message that I want to share with you guys, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. The narration of that message reads like this: "Hello, Brother Nashi, can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I am a young woman who was used by my blesser for rituals. So let me say that when I fell pregnant, at that time I didn't know whom exactly I had fallen pregnant for, because both of the guys that I was dating, they were all married guys. The other one, he was a taxi driver, and the other one, he was my teacher. So as for my teacher, he had said that if you ever fall pregnant for me, please never come to me, because he had been giving me some family planning, and he told me that I was supposed to use those family planning pills, but each and every time when I would drink those family planning pills, I would start bleeding. So I was really scared, and I was also scared to tell him or to ask him why I was bleeding each and every time that I'll be drinking those family planning pills that he used to give me. At the time when I realized that I had fallen pregnant, I didn't know who else to blame, because I was dating two men at the same time. That was when another guy came into the picture. This was a third guy. He was studying at the University of Zim. Unfortunately, this guy, he passed away, because I suspect that the teacher was the one who infected me with HIV. And still, I was really young. I never thought of going to the New Start Center so that I can get tested. After I had decided to start dating that guy who was from university, who was the same age as I was, I then thought that it was far much better for me to become his wife. He took me in, Brother Nashi, and we then started staying together. And I can say that for a moment, love was such a beautiful thing. I was someone who had started dating people that were really old. Since I was someone who had only started dating guys that were way older than I was, I then decided to get married to this guy who was in the same age group as I was. And for a moment, I started enjoying my marriage. It then happened that after I gave birth, my mother-in-law was the one who became so suspicious. She said that the child that I had given birth to, there was no way that it belonged to her son. So this made my husband, who was my husband at that time, to hate me a lot, and I was chased away from my mother-in-law's house, and I was returned back home, and my parents told me that I had embarrassed them, and this was such a shameful thing that I had done. And they asked me who was the father of my child, and I was even confused to tell them who exactly the father was. Because of everything that happened, I then developed this resentment and bitterness towards the child that I had gave birth to. I don't know how I can explain it to you. Even when my baby would be crying, sometimes I would even ignore not wanting to feed the baby. It was only after my mom would have shouted at me, that was when I would go and take the child and breastfeed the child. And I hated each and every second when the baby was breastfeeding on me, like when the baby was trying to have a connection with me. To me, this brought more shame and bitterness, and I could not grow to love my child. So when I was 24 years old, that was when my mom's sister told me that she wanted to take me so that I can go and stay with her. At that time, my mom's sister, she had started a small like flea market. She was going to Botswana and she was buying some clothes. Then she was selling those clothes and some shoes as well. So I started working for her. Whilst I was working for her, I never stopped dating men, and I would date men so that I can just forget about my child, as well as just to forget about my past relationship with that man who had once married me, who was the love of my life, because he had recently gotten married to another girl that I once knew. So the bitterness was just coming from all angles, and there was no one who could assist me. I kept on dating several men until I met that guy who had came to that place where I was working at the flea market. I saw that indeed he was a rich man, and he told me that he was willing to heal my broken heart, and he was happy that he had found me because I was still so young, and he was excited about our new relationship. Mind you, this guy, he was really old. When I was dating him at that time, he was already 50 years old, and this man, he was experiencing some problems whereby whenever we would try to make love, he was having early ejaculation, and each and every time when he would do this, he would apologize to me and he would tell me that he was going to give me money. So this was like my blesser, and each and every time when I was with him, he kept on promising me that he was going to start a hustle for me so that I can make more money. By the time, Brother Nashi, when I was 25, I then met another guy. So that old man that I was dating, he then came to my workplace one day without ever informing me that he was going to come to my workplace. But my brother, when he came, I was really shocked because suddenly he was there standing at the flea market table, and I was with another man. He saw that indeed I was dating this other guy. He left without ever saying anything. My brother, this man all along, he had been giving me money. So all of the money that he had been giving me, since it was quite a lot, what I would do is that I would go and give some of that money to my mom. Some of it was to take care of my child, then the rest she was supposed to keep it, because I wanted one day to travel with my mom's sister there to Botswana so that I can buy my own clothes and start up my small flea market. One day after this man he had found out that I had been cheating on him, I then had my mom, she just texted me and she told me that all of the money that I had given to her, the money had been stolen. I said, how so? Did someone ever break into the house? Then my mom said, no one ever broke into the house. We were just sleeping, me and your father. When I woke up, it was like God was trying to tell me something, but I could not hear what he was trying to tell me. So I then went and I opened the wardrobe. Underneath the clothes, that was where my mom was keeping the money. She then found out that inside the wardrobe there was no longer any money, but my mom saw that there was a chameleon that was inside the wardrobe. Where this chameleon had came from, no one ever knew. Since my parents, they never believed in these things of witchcraft, since they used to go to the church. So the church that they were attending, it is that type of a church whereby they are your traditional churches and they do not believe that the spirits can affect the living. So my mom then said that she was going to call one of the pastors, and after the pastor came, then they just removed the chameleon and said that this chameleon, it belonged to God. It was a natural chameleon. But from there on, that was when my troubles started. I never enjoyed life up until today. My brother, what usually happens to me is that once I get something, like if I have money, whether in my pockets or in my handbag, that money will just vanish. Even if I am on a taxi going somewhere or on a bus, that money will just disappear. I once went to South Africa to work because there was another friend of mine from high school who had told me that there was someone who needed a housemaid. So I then went to South Africa to work. But upon my arrival, and as I was working for that woman, I then saw that she started hating me. So I didn't understand. That was when my friend told me that, look, I had tried to assist you, but how can you do such a thing? I said, what do you mean? She told me that these people, they had some money that they had in their house, and this money, it was not quite a lot of money. My friend at that time told me that it was round about 230 rands that went missing in their house. So when they saw that this money had gone missing, they suspected that it was me who had done this. My brother, that is how I got fired. The money that disappeared, I do not even know where it went to, but this is my own story, and this is the painful life that I am living. As for that old man, I last heard that this man, he passed away. And at the time that he passed away, he was crippled. He was going around in a wheelchair. This man, he had a garage whereby they were fixing your buses as well as the trucks. So some people just said that at the time when he passed away, he was saying that he was a ritualist. So I feel so scared that maybe this man, if he was a ritualist at the time when he found out that I had been taking his money and at the same time I have been cheating on him, maybe he got angry at me and he decided to use his charms against me. I am suffering a lot, my brother. Even the way that my son ended up passing away, it was because of some of the charms that were given to me. Like, let me be honest, I then went to a healer, but this was a red garment prophet. When I went there and when I told the healer that this is what was going on, so I told him where my problems started. I said, please do not waste my time by prophesying against me. Let me just tell you, because I didn't come here to know where my problems came from. I know where exactly my problems came from. Then that prophet said, it is fine. After I had told that prophet that I once dated a blesser, and this blesser, after he caught me cheating, that was when all of my problems started. He then said that it was easy, but for us to cast away this spell, we needed to use my son. And the way that we used my son, we buried some clay pots. We then buried some of my son's pictures. I actually had to go and ask this other guy who had a camera so that he can take a picture of my son, and after that printing them out, then I went back to that red garment prophet, and he had told me to buy 2 meters of a red garment cloth. He said that this 2 meter that he had told me to buy, it represented a grave, and inside that grave, that was where I was supposed to bury all of my problems, and none of the charms that might have been used by my blesser could ever affect me again. And we then buried all of those items, including my son's pictures. But what worried me, even though I was trying to find a solution, was that after we had placed everything in a shallow grave, then that red garment prophet told me to place my son's pictures. And after that, I took this other clay plate called Mia, and on top of that clay plate, I was then made to place a knife, but it was not a knife with a metallic blade, it had a wooden blade. After that, he told me that I was supposed to bury all of those items that we had placed inside that shallow grave. And the way that we buried this thing, my brother, I did not use my hands at all. I used my legs. He told me to face the other direction, and he told me that what I was supposed to do was to push the soil into that shallow grave using my legs. This is what I did, my brother, just like what a dog does when it wants to bury its own droppings. That is what I was doing. When he finally told me to stop, he then said that do not look back, and he was the one who finished up burying all of those items in that shallow grave where I buried them. When I returned, I could not be accessible on my phone. I don't know what was going on with my phone. Maybe there was a problem with the network or something, and in the meantime there was already a funeral. My son had passed away. That is how my son passed away. And at that time, when I heard that my son had passed away, there was too much bitterness in my heart. Maybe I never got counseling at the time when I gave birth. Maybe if I had been given counseling, I was going to love the child that I had gave birth to. But I felt so much bitterness that I never shed a tear for my son. It was only after I started to notice that I was now experiencing experiencing bad luck once again. That was when I shed a tear for my son for the first time. This is what is going on in my life. I wish that when I wake up in the morning, death would have taken me. Dear listeners, right there was a narration of a message that was sent to me by one of our dear sisters.